High above the imperial palace of the great Ling Empire, the cold wind whispered through the heavens as a terrifying presence took shape. An ice dragon born not from flesh and blood, but from the intricate mysteries of formation arrays. This was no ordinary construct. The dragon that coiled behind Ling Han possessed the aura of the shattering void tier itself. Its body shimmered with frost, scales carved from pure icy chi, and each breath it exhaled sent waves of bone-chilling cold rippling through the air. Yet, despite its terrifying strength, Ling Han understood the nature of this guardian clearly. The ice dragon was invincible, but only in theory. Because it was created from a formation, as long as the formation remained intact, the dragon would continue to exist endlessly. Destroy it once, and it would reform again and again, as eternal as the formation that birthed it. But that same truth also revealed its fatal weakness. If the formation itself were destroyed, the ice dragon would vanish like mist beneath the morning sun. Still, formations were never so easy to break. With calm precision, Ling Han made his decision. He turned to Helian Shunshui and spoke plainly, his eyes fixed on the 108 formation eyes embedded within the array. Attack the formation's eye with your full strength. At the same time, Ling Han controlled the ice dragon with exquisite precision, ensuring that it would not retaliate against Helian Shunshui. A moment later, Hong, Helian Shunshui moved. Her cultivation surged outward as she released the full power of a heaven-tier peak expert. Though she had reached the pinnacle of this realm, the final step toward the shattering void tier remained a wall she had yet to overcome. That last step was unimaginably difficult. For some cultivators, it required 3 to 5 years of bitter training. For others, 30 to 50 years. For the unfortunate, it might take 300 or even 500 years. And some would never cross that threshold in their entire lifetime. Because the difference between the heaven tier and the shattering void tier was not merely a gap of strength, it was a fundamental transformation of existence itself. Even so, Helian Shunshui was no ordinary cultivator. Her body cultivation and origin power were both extraordinary, and she had pushed herself infinitely close to the shattering void realm. When she unleashed her attack, it was as if the heavens themselves trembled. The strike roared through the sky like a falling meteor. With a single move, it felt as though the entire imperial palace could be flattened into dust. Such power was not an exaggeration. After all, true shattering void tier elites could strike down stars from the heavens themselves. Compared to that, destroying an imperial palace was nothing remarkable. Hong, her attack smashed violently into the formation. The entire array was blasted backward nearly 300 meters through the sky. Yet the 108 formation eyes remained perfectly aligned, maintaining their original spacing as though anchored by invisible chains. And behind Ling Han, the ice dragon still coiled majestically, its icy breath spreading frost across the air. Helian Shunjui's eyes widened. My full-strength attack can't break this formation? Her voice carried genuine shock. Despite her inability to step into the shattering void tier, she stood incredibly close to that realm. Her battle power was already monstrous. Yet even she could not destroy the formation, too astonishing. Ling Han, however, was extremely pleased. 10th tier formations truly live up to their reputation, he murmured with satisfaction. At that moment, a familiar voice suddenly chimed in. Let this lady try. Yi Shuang appeared nearby, her expression lively, clearly eager to test the formation herself. Ling Han glanced at her and rubbed his chin thoughtfully. You? He paused briefly before continuing. Let's go into the sky. If you lose control, you might destroy my imperial palace. He pointed toward the palace grounds below. There, above the capital of the Great Ling Empire, a faint shadow hovered in the air. It was the barely formed silhouette of a black tower. This was the Empire's totem. It had only recently begun to manifest. According to Yi Shuang, once the will and faith of the people gathered sufficiently, the totem would solidify into a true entity, one capable of protecting the nation for generations. If the nation endured, the tower would endure. If the nation fell, the tower would vanish alongside it. Soon, the two rose into the sky above the palace. Ling Han kept the ice dragon motionless beside him, allowing Yi Shuang to attack freely. His goal was simple, to determine the true defensive limit of the formation. Yi Shuang lifted a palm casually. The first attack, she announced lightly. Battle prowess of the Shattering Void tier, 1 star. Her palm descended. A terrifying pressure swept through the heavens. If the ice dragon had not been standing between Ling Han and the attack, he would never have dared observe the clash from such a close distance. The power of the Shattering Void tier surpassed ordinary logic. Ling Han could not help but feel a trace of unease. Even with the enhancement of the Black Tower, would his strength be able to reach Shattering Void tier battle prowess? Hong, the palm strike landed. The formation was blasted several hundred meters through the sky once more, yet the array remained intact. The ice dragon continued to coil protectively behind Ling Han. Yi Shuang raised another hand. The second attack, Shattering Void tier, 2 stars. Hong. Again, the formation shook violently, but it still endured. The third attack, 3 stars. Hong, the sky trembled with each impact. One strike after another followed. By the time Yi Shuang delivered the fifth attack, the overwhelming power finally reached the formation's limit. Boom! The array collapsed. The 108 formation eyes scattered across the sky like falling stars. The limit had been reached. Ling Han calmly retrieved the formation eyes and quickly reconstructed the array. Once the formation was restored, he said, "Now try again, but this time with the ice dragon present. Let's see how strong it truly is." Yi Shuang grinned. Without hesitation, she unleashed battle prowess equal to Shattering Void tier 5 stars. At that moment, the ice dragon moved. The massive dragon roared silently as it launched a counterattack. Instantly, the sky transformed into a frozen battlefield. Icy mist spread through the heavens like a deadly storm. Even Heaven tier elites would be frozen solid if they approached too closely. At best, they could only attack from a distance a few times before the freezing aura consumed them. Yi Shuang. Shuang found herself suppressed. Even with 5-star Shattering Void battle power, she could not overpower the ice dragon, but she simply increased her strength, star by star. Shattering Void tier, 7 stars. The battle intensified. The sky became a chaotic domain of ice and power. Eventually, the true limit of the formation was revealed. The Ice Dragon Ground Blast formation could match battle prowess, equivalent to 7 stars of the Shattering Void tier. However, the moment Yi Shuang raised her strength to 8 stars, the balance collapsed. The Ice Dragon was instantly suppressed. Not long after, the formation shattered once again. Ling Han's smile widened with satisfaction. Although Shattering Void tier elites had begun appearing more frequently in recent times, how many could actually reach 7-star battle prowess? According to Helian Xunshui, the entire Helian royal family possessed only 3 such experts. The sea race itself was terrifying because its members carried the blood of true dragons. Those with strong bloodlines could borrow the power of their ancestors during the Heaven tier and summon a true dragon manifestation. Through this experience, they could comprehend the mysteries of the Shattering Void tier, making breakthrough significantly easier for them. But once they truly stepped into the Shattering Void tier, their bloodline advantages were mostly exhausted. Only a rare few could surpass the 5th layer of that realm. Most would remain at 2-star or 3-star battle power for the rest of their lives. With this formation in hand, Ling Han felt confident. Even if the Xianyu family sent a Shattering Void tier expert to attack, the Ice Dragon Ground Blast formation would be more than enough to deal with them. After all, they wouldn't dispatch all of their strongest elites at once, would they? After pondering for a moment, Ling Han turned toward Yi Shuang. "Why are you willing to help me?" Yi Shuang answered casually, without even blinking. "This lady is in love with you. Isn't that reason enough?" Ling Han burst out laughing. Hehe. The excuse was far too fake. Still, he placed his hands behind his back and said proudly, "Well, naturally. This young master is handsome, easygoing, and blessed with unparalleled martial talent. It's only natural that countless young ladies admire me." "Pah!" Yi Shuang spat disdainfully. "You frog at the bottom of a well. You have no idea what true geniuses look like." She crossed her arms and continued. "In the divine realm, there are plenty of people who enter the Shattering Void tier in their 20s. She lifted her chin proudly. "Take this lady as an example. I reached the Shattering Void tier at 27. Ling Han's eyes flashed. He suddenly pointed at her. "Ha! So you finally admit that you're from the divine realm." Yi Shuang Shuang raised her snow-white neck like a proud swan. So what? Are you going to bite me? Ling Han sighed helplessly. Why was this woman such a rogue? He rubbed his forehead before asking seriously, if that's the case, why don't you return to the divine realm, and why help me? He narrowed his eyes. Don't tell me you're just a good person. I won't believe it. Yi Shuang Shuang opened her mouth slightly. For a moment, she seemed unsure how to respond. Then she said defensively, why can't this lady be a good person? Ling Han shook his head firmly. From head to toe, inside and out, you don't resemble a good person at all. Yi Shuang Shuang blinked slowly. Inside and out? Her lips curled mischievously. Tsk, tsk, you bold little pervert. She snapped her fingers with a sharp crack. When exactly did you peek at this lady? Ling Han waved his hands quickly. All right. Stop changing the subject. His expression turned serious. Yes, having a powerful Shattering Void Tier expert by my side is certainly convenient, but I dislike unstable elements even more. Yi Shuang Shuang chuckled softly. Aren't you afraid I'll turn on you for saying that? She leaned closer. You should know, for a tiny fellow like you. She raised 3 fingers. This lady can pick river snails with 3 fingers, snatch, and never miss. Ling Han remained calm. If you intended to attack me, you would have already done so. He shrugged lightly. So I'd rather believe you have other plans. Yi Shuang Shuang rested her chin on her palm, studying him thoughtfully. For someone at the deity transformation tier, you're quite bold. You clearly know this lady's identity, yet you still dare to lay everything out so directly. She smiled slowly. All right. For the sake of your courage, this lady will tell you the truth. Her eyes glimmered faintly. I believe you are hiding a shocking secret, and this lady intends to squeeze that secret out of you. Ling Han's gaze lingered upon Yi Shuang Shuang, studying her carefully as though trying to read the secrets hidden behind her relaxed demeanor. Yi Shuang. Shuang Shuang noticed the scrutiny immediately. She lifted an eyebrow with a faintly amused expression and tilted her head slightly. What is it? Is there something strange on this lady's face? She asked, her voice carrying a teasing edge. Ling Han shook his head lightly. No, nothing like that, he replied calmly. But I'm curious about something. With your abilities, couldn't you simply interrogate me directly if you wanted answers? For a brief moment, Yi Shuang stared at him, and then laughter burst from her lips, bright and carefree. Ha! She laughed loudly, clearly entertained. Were you born with wretchedness carved into your bones? This lady hasn't even started torturing you, and yet you're already dissatisfied. As she spoke, she casually rolled up the sleeves of her robe, revealing slender arms with deliberate slowness, as if preparing for something far less pleasant. Well then, she continued with mock seriousness, since you insist on asking for trouble, perhaps this lady should stop being polite. Ling Han chuckled lightly and waved a hand dismissively. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not asking you to torture me. It's simply curiosity. I want to know whether there exists anything capable of restraining someone at the Shattering Void tier. Yi Shuang Shuang paused at that question. She tilted her head to one side, genuinely considering it for a moment. After a short silence, she finally spoke again. All right, she said slowly. Since you asked, this lady will explain a little. Her tone carried the pride of someone speaking from a position far above the mortal world. This lady is a divine being, she declared calmly. But in this small world, even someone like me must endure the suppression of the heavenly Dao. She raised a finger and pointed upward toward the unseen heavens. When people say that the heavens have eyes, it means that if this lady oversteps certain limits, the world itself will react. The realm will reject me. Ling Han leaned back slightly and responded casually. Wouldn't that actually be convenient? If the world repels you, wouldn't that simply send you back to the divine realm? Yi Shuang rolled her charming eyes in exasperation. If returning were that easy, do you think this lady would remain trapped here? She scoffed. Her expression darkened slightly as she continued. This entire world has been sealed by a terrifying killing formation. If the realm's force rejects me and tries to push me out, I won't be sent back safely to the divine realm. Instead, I'll be crushed and obliterated by that formation before I can even escape. Ling Han smiled faintly. But you're a divine being, aren't you? The most powerful existence. What is there to fear? Yi Shuang's face twisted with irritation. Nonsense, she snapped angrily. This lady has been suppressed here for 100,000 years. All my blood essence has been drained away during that time. If I still possess the power I had in my prime, do you think I would need to fear something like that? Ling Han stared at her with a slightly strange expression. Hey, wait a moment, he said slowly. Exactly how many years old are you? A look of disgust crossed his face as the realization dawned on him. You keep calling yourself this lady, but you're actually an ancient monster older than anyone could imagine. Yi Shuang slammed her palm onto the table with a sharp crack. What kind of look is that? She demanded fiercely. This lady is forever young. She lifted her chin proudly. Besides, if you measure it according to the lifespan of my race, I'm only just entering the prime of my youth. For a moment, she looked ready to devour him alive. Ling Han instantly understood. Age was clearly a sensitive topic, especially for women, and it was best not to provoke it further. Without hesitation, he smoothly shifted the conversation. In any case, he said thoughtfully, if you were to attack me directly, the heavenly Dao would become enraged, and the realm would reject you. Then you'd be forced out and ultimately destroyed by the formation. Yishuang frowned slightly at his phrasing. That's not quite so dramatic, she replied with mild annoyance. The main reason is that this lady cherishes talent. Ling Han knew very well that she wasn't telling the entire truth. When matters touched upon the real secrets of the situation, she would certainly keep those hidden. However, one thing was clear for the moment, she truly had no intention of harming him, so Ling Han calmly changed the topic again. Do you know about the Asura Demon Emperor? He asked. Yi Shuang. Shuang immediately sneered. Tsk. Just a lackey from the underworld, she said dismissively. And he dares to call himself a Demon Emperor? That title alone is enough to make this lady laugh her head off. Her tone was filled with contempt, yet Ling Han was secretly astonished. The Asura Demon Emperor was a terrifying existence who had been split into 9 pieces and sealed away, yet still managed to survive through countless millennia. Even such a monstrous figure was dismissed so casually by her. That alone proved how extraordinary Yi Shuang truly was. Then suddenly, a thought struck Ling Han. He froze for a moment before asking with visible surprise, Wait, the Asura Demon Emperor comes from the underworld? Yi Shuang nodded slightly. A wisp of demonic qi born within the underworld, she explained. Over countless years, it developed consciousness and eventually became a living spirit. She continued speaking in an indifferent tone. Later, it crossed the barrier between the divine realm and the underworld and entered the divine realm. There it was utterly defeated. She paused briefly. Everyone believed it had been destroyed. Then she frowned slightly, letting out a soft sound of confusion. But now it seems that it was merely sealed here instead. Her eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Which raises an interesting question. Why wasn't it simply killed? Ling Han considered this for a moment before offering his own guess. Perhaps the Asura Demon Emperor escaped here to this small world, and the elites of the divine realm were unable to enter? Yi Shuang nodded at first, but then she slowly shook her head. That explanation doesn't fully make sense, she said thoughtfully. The small world rejects outsiders. It's already difficult to leave it, but entering it is even harder. She continued calmly. That applies even to those from the divine realm, let alone someone like the Asura Demon Emperor, who originates from the underworld. She folded her arms. This entire situation is very strange. Ling Han felt puzzled. From his own understanding, the story had seemed simple. The Asura Demon Emperor had been hunted within the divine realm and eventually fled into the small world to escape. That seemed perfectly logical. Yet according to Yi Shuang, the situation was far more complicated than that. Ling Han pondered for a moment before raising another question. What about the Thousand Corpse sect, he asked. I've heard that the divine realm also has a sect with that name. Yi Shuang immediately looked annoyed. You brat, she said irritably. Why do you have so many questions? Aren't you tired of being so annoying? Ling Han simply waved his hand casually. Come, he called out. Bring tea, snacks, and fruits. At his command, palace maids soon appeared, carrying trays filled with all sorts of delicacies. These foods had all been grown within the Black Tower. To avoid revealing its secrets, Ling Han usually stored them in ordinary reserves before taking them out when needed, making them appear completely normal. Yi Shuang sniffed disdainfully. Do you think this lady is some kind of glutton? She protested. Yet before long, she began eating happily. The ingredients grown within the Black Tower possessed extraordinary flavor and purity. Even someone like Yi Shuang couldn't help but praise them repeatedly as she tasted them. After enjoying the food for a while, she finally leaned back slightly. Fine, she said lazily. This lady will reveal a few secrets for you. However, her tone quickly became serious. But every realm has its own rules. I cannot say too much. She lifted a finger and pointed toward the sky. If I go too far, I might attract unwanted attention. Her gesture clearly referred to the Eye of Heavenly Dao. Ling Han nodded calmly. You can say whatever you wish, he replied casually. I'll simply listen. Nothing will be taken too seriously. Shuang snickered softly. Very well, she began explaining. The vast lands where you live is merely a small world. Its rules are incomplete and its space is limited. She used a simple metaphor. It's like a sealed pond. The sky you see is only that large. The world you can reach extends only that far. Her tone grew more deliberate. In other words, this world has an end. Ling Han nodded in understanding. That explained why shattering void tier experts in this world could strike down the stars visible in the sky. If those stars were truly real celestial bodies, each one would be at least as large as the vast lands itself. Destroying them would be impossible, Yi Shuang continued. In contrast, the divine realm is like an immense network of rivers and oceans. She spoke slowly as if describing a vast landscape. From lakes, you can enter rivers. From rivers, you can reach the seas. The connections stretch endlessly. Her eyes glimmered faintly. It is a true great world. Then, she added quietly, at least from what this lady knows, no one has ever explored its true boundaries. Ling Han felt a deep shock. Even divine beings did not know how vast the divine realm truly was. How enormous must that world be? Yi Shuang continued her explanation. However, within heaven and earth, balance always exists. If there is positive, there must also be negative. If there is yang, there must also be yin. If there is good, there must also be evil. She spoke slowly, emphasizing every word. There exists an underworld that stands alongside the divine realm. She explained further. You can think of it as a space overlapping with the divine realm. The two exist in the same location, yet we cannot see or interfere with each other. She paused briefly before continuing. But even though the two worlds cannot normally interact directly, their spaces still overlap. And because of that, some influence inevitably leaks through. The qi of the underworld constantly seeps into the divine realm. Over time, it affects the living beings there. Her voice became more serious. The two worlds are also in constant conflict. At the locations where the conflict becomes most intense, the barrier between realms grows extremely thin. Her eyes narrowed slightly. At those points, cultivators from the underworld can freely enter the divine realm. Ling Han listened carefully. Yi Shuang then revealed the next piece of information. The Thousand Corpse sect you mentioned is known as Hades in the divine realm. It was founded by powerful beings who originally came from the underworld. She gestured casually. The Thousand Corpse sect that exists here in your world is merely one of its sub-branches. She explained their true purpose. Their goal is to sow chaos within the divine realm. They seek to transform it into a second underworld. Her voice lowered slightly. If the two realms were ever to merge together completely, the overall level of the world would rise dramatically. Ling Han felt speechless after hearing this. All this time, he had been striving to break through the heavens and ascend into the divine realm. Yet now he discovered that even the divine realm was locked in a terrifying struggle against the underworld. One day, it might even be consumed and transformed into a world filled entirely with monsters and demons. After a moment of silence, Ling Han finally asked another question. Is the divine realm weaker than the underworld? After all, if the two worlds existed side by side, it seemed unlikely that one would be vastly stronger than the other. Yi Shuang rolled her eyes again. The underworld coveting the divine realm is one matter, she said calmly. Whether it can actually conquer it is another matter entirely, she continued explaining. From what this lady knows, the two worlds have fought countless wars across hundreds of millions of years. Her tone carried quiet certainty. Yet even now, the underworld remains the underworld, and the divine realm remains the divine realm. Neither side has been able to destroy the other. Then she gave a faint, knowing smile. And besides, do you really think the divine realm has no interest in devouring the underworld? Her final words carried a touch of mockery. In truth, the two realms are like two dogs locked in a struggle. How could you call either one noble?